Nanalo ng Family Feud ng Team Dundee Boys ng 200,000 pesos.
Family Feud, 5:35 p.m.
Hindi ka na ng Pachanod na yung months at 2027, manood, magdarot, manado. Okay, so nasa palikodan.ph sa fight.
Welcome to my episode that is called
That's okay.
"5:16 p.m. today. Hi, I'm Kim Vanel in Wanganui, New Zealand. It's Monday, 27th. Today, an uneasy quiet in Iran as Trump weighs the cost of continuing and Israel's Prime Minister heads to Washington. Shein warns the fast fashion model and the price you pay is going to change. India's Modi promises reform in the wake of youth-led protests. And Malaysia is told to look after its Rohingya children as schools are closed. This is Reuters World News, bringing you everything you need to know from the front lines in 10 minutes, 7 days a week. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Mike Waltz, says President Donald Trump is pausing attacks on Iran to allow more time for diplomacy. But behind the scenes, Trump's advisors have been telling him the U.S. is running out of targets and are warning him about depleting the remaining arsenal. Washington stopped attacking Iran on Friday after almost 2 weeks of daily strikes. Iran has also gone quiet since then, stopping its hits on neighbouring countries which host US bases. An Iranian official told Reuters its position remains attack for attack, and that it's conveyed that to Washington. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu may well push for the US to go back to war when he meets with President Trump tomorrow.
Wow.
Netanyahu is heading to Washington to attend Senator Lindsey Graham's funeral, but will meet with Trump too. It's been months since the pair got together. In that time, Trump has admitted to calling his ally crazy in a phone call, angry over Israel's continued attacks on Lebanon. White House reporter Graham Slattery has more on what to expect.
These two, they have a very odd relationship. Sometimes they are very close, they have cordial phone calls. Sometimes if Trump blows up at Netanyahu, it's sort of kind of a love-hate relationship. Obviously, right now the context is different. We kind of have to look at their areas of divergence. Right now, we have sort of a informal ceasefire going on in the Middle East that doesn't really serve Israel's interest at the moment. The Israeli government had said that they saw the previous arrangement under which the U.S. was bombing Iran nightly without Israel's help as something that was beneficial to Israel. So I think we can perhaps expect Prime Minister Netanyahu to push for some sort of resumption of strikes. And then on another front, there is some disagreement between the Trump administration and the Netanyahu government regarding Lebanon. Trump has said that he would be interested in the leader of Syria, al-Shara, perhaps playing some role in taking on Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, which Israel does not want. Al-Shara himself was part of Al-Qaeda, an Al-Qaeda branch for a time. So that's sort of the terrain that we're looking at.
Pivoting now to markets and what to keep an eye on this week. Here's Mike Dolan from our sister podcast, Morning Bid.
Good morning. We have a super busy week ahead, dominated by the big hyperscaler earnings. Amazon, Meta, Microsoft and Apple all reporting either side of a critical Fed meeting where the Fed is still priced in the futures market with a 1 in 4 chance of a rate hike this week. So some critical events.
Wow.
It gets a bit of relief coming into the week with oil prices falling back. But there is some very big single stock movements going on, not least in China, where we had a 500% rise of CXMT to become China's biggest company on its first
Sa
day
sakit
trading.
sa
You can
200,000.
catch Morning Bid wherever you get your podcasts. One company getting plenty of attention from investors right now is fast fashion giant Shein. It's warning that the economics of ultra-cheap fast fashion are changing. It says a US crackdown on duty-free imports from China is hurting sales and forcing it to consider higher prices. That as the company released new financials ahead of a planned Hong Kong IPO. Correspondent Selena Lee is in Hong Kong.
I think it definitely signals that the golden
bold,
era of unbelievably cheap, tax-free cross-border shopping is winding down. The exemption gave them previously a double advantage. First, they didn't have to pay import
Sarap pa.
duties, which kept the prices very low. We talked about $5 tops or $10 dresses. Secondly, allowed them to sort of bypass complex, customs paperwork, meaning previously they could test thousands of new styles every day in small batches without having to consider the heavy overload. Now, without exemption, the entire cost structure that allowed them to undercut traditional, brick and mortar fast fashion now clearly takes a hit.
But Selena says fast fashion is not disappearing.
Analysts told us this IPO is perhaps less about raising money to stay afloat and more about converting those investor shares into regular stock so that they can clean up their balance sheet. Basically, we've seen the business having a huge pile of operating cash. It has $15 billion, so it doesn't need extra money. What it needs is a clean balance sheet to go forward.
Police say a 21-year-old man with a record of Islamist extremist activity has been shot dead. The man allegedly drove a minivan into people near Berlin's Pride celebrations, killing one person before he was shot by police.
Des Terrorismus und dieses Gift.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz
Chicken
promising
is
to
in.
protect the country's liberal values after the attack.
हमारी परीक्षा पद्धति विश्वस्त हो.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi announcing he's creating a task force to overhaul India's examination system, following huge youth protests over exam paper leaks. The protests went on for weeks, led by the Cockroach Janta Party, culminating over the weekend in the resignation of the country's education minister, only the second time in the 12 years of Modi's rule that a minister has stepped down. Rohingya refugee children in Malaysia are being driven out of classrooms after a surge in online hate speech and misinformation targeting their community. Reuters checks show that at least 9 schools have closed. Some children are now too afraid to leave their homes after facing threats and harassment. Reuters correspondent Rosanna Latif is in Kuala Lumpur.
Rohingya refugees have been traditionally welcomed in Malaysia for many years, but that changed during the COVID-19 pandemic when they came under unfounded accusations that they were spreading the virus and not adhering to lockdown requirements. I think Malaysian Prime Minister at the time even said that Malaysia could no longer take on the burden of hosting Rohingya refugees, and that really started the first wave of hate speech. But this latest surge has really been the worst.
The latest wave was sparked by a video which went viral of a Rohingya cattle slaughter for the Muslim Eid al-Adha festival. Critics said the scale of the slaughter was unhygienic, and now the community is being targeted in real life.
People started identifying places where Rohingya was staying and where they were going to school and where the communities are, and started reporting them to authorities for various things, for petty crime or for cleanliness concerns. This has translated to people identifying premises that were being used for schools for Rohingya children, and because of that, authorities started shutting these places down. these places also came under harassment from random strangers who were basically going up to children and saying, why do you want to go to school? Are you learning to take over Malaysia?
The United Nations is calling on Malaysia to address online hate speech and protect children. But for the government, there are limits.
Rohingya children cannot have access to the national education system because Malaysia is not a party to the UN Refugee Convention. So most of these schools are either being run by NGOs or they are informally run community centers. So they don't have much protections at all from the government.
For more on any of the stories from today, check out Reuters.com or the Reuters app. Don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast player. If you're listening on a smart speaker, just ask for the latest news from Reuters 7 days a week. We'll be back tomorrow with our daily headline show.
That's it for your news updates. To see more stories, open Google News.